Hello, class. I'm going to speak about Miss Jane McCrea and how her death was used as propaganda during the Revolutionary War period. So, you're asking, who is Jane McCrea? She was a loyalist who was born in near Sarasota, New York. She was there during the beginning of the Revolutionary War period. She was a fiance to David Jones, who was a loyalist who joined the British soldiers up in Quebec and became under the leadership of General Burgoyne during that time period. What happened is while she was living there, she decided that she wanted to go join her fiance, be closer to him. So she joined with a Miss Sarah McNeil, who was a loyalist friend, and she was also a relative of one of the British generals. It doesn't state who. But during this time period, her and Sarah decided to move closer to the British Army. So what happened is General Burgoyne decided to send Wyandotte scouts to go help these ladies and to bring them closer to the troops. Now, much is under debate. Not much is known of this story. No one knows who actually has the right of this story because so much of the information that was used during this time period became propaganda. So, Miss Jane McCrea and Miss Sarah McNeil met these Wyandotte scouts, proceeded to go with them, and from here, no one knows what happened. But the most accepted story is Miss Jane and Miss Sarah were separated. Sarah survived and was able to tell the story that the scouts and themselves were attacked by American colonists, and Jane was shot. The other versions are they got separated. Sarah was taken as a captive. Jane was killed and she ended up being scalped. And the Wyandotte Panther, he was one of the scouts. He was the one who turned in the scout to General Burgoyne, and her fiance came upon them during the transaction and recognized the hair hanging off of the scalp as that of his fiance. And the British had a policy during this time to pay for these scalps of these Americans. So basically what came out is the British paid for this murder. Another story is General Gates, who was a colonial general during this time period, wrote a scathing letter to this General Burgoyne and said, "How could you let this happen?" Here Jane was traveling in her wedding dress to make the story even worse, and same thing happened. She was killed by these savages, and they went and scalped her and turned in her scalp, and the British basically funded this innocent female's death. So who knows who's actually right? Much of the story has kind of been lost to history, and a lot of it is basically based upon the propaganda that was used. Her death became a lightning rod for the American colonists. They utilized it as a recruiting tool, and as it was considered one of the most celebrated atrocities of the war. And basically, it became a battle cry to remember Jane McCrea and not let this happen again. And it also is the colonists were able to capitalize on this tragedy and utilize it as showing that the British couldn't protect the loyalists who they had stated that they could, and so on and so forth. So this story is a definite great example of how propaganda can be used to capitalize on tragedies and, bad things that happen. And for right now, time will tell on if we'll ever know the true story of Miss Jane McCrea. Thank you. Goodbye.